Good evening, everyone. We are here with Creative Partner Stephanie Paulson. She's going to be using the newest idea sketchbook to create tonight's layout. She is going to be doing a Halloween layout with our new sketchbook. Our sketchbook was from this release we just launched, has 180 sketches in it to help use as a springboard when you're looking for ideas and inspiration for your layouts. So Stephanie is going to be using that sketchbook tonight for her Halloween layout she is creating. Please feel free to drop a comment and say hello. I'll let Stephanie introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Paulson. I am a creative partner. I live in Minnesota, and I have been with Kiwi Lane for about 3 years. I first learned of Kiwi Lane just by finding some sketches on Pinterest, and they looked so cute. I had to figure out what it was, and like probably a lot of you, I became addicted really quickly. So I'm excited to share with you a couple of the new products, one being the nice, lovely Sketchbook Ideabook 4 that is all sketches. So I'm going to highlight just a couple of things here that I think are really cool. And I know Kiwi Lane has already shared these on their page, but I love how they show like all the different things you can do with a sketch and the different ways to interpret it all. For example, you look at this sketch right here, and they show essentially 5 different ways that they flip things around, done something a little bit different with the pictures, done some mirror image, turned stuff a little, and you have 5 totally different looking layouts with the same sketch. This is one that I do a lot with sketches. You know, like here it's really girly and floral and scallops and stuff, but you can also make it really masculine just by switching up the flowers and the scallops with some gears and some stars. So those are just a couple of ideas. I don't want to spoil the whole sketchbook for you guys because in my opinion, you all need it. But if you like a good sketch challenge or you like an idea book, I think it's a really awesome way to go. Some of the pages do have actual sketches and layouts like the old idea book, but every single one has an actual sketch. One thing I like about sketches is they're so easy to switch up. If you like one-page layouts, you can always take a double sketch and you can just take one page or the other. If you, you can just easily, let's say we're going to do this Halloween sketch down here tonight. So let's say you don't want to sketch Halloween. You want to sketch a wedding or a birthday. You know, you could put in a birthday cake and a hat here, or you could put in some flowers or whatever you want to do. So I think that just makes it a lot of fun. And anyway, I have some pictures that I printed today on my little.
Hop in real quick. So I am so happy you mentioned all those things. I'm gonna let you take it over from here. We do have some comments coming in, so I hope you can see them. Let me know when you get there on the comments.
Yeah. Let me sketch, or let me refresh. I saw a few pop up and then I didn't see them. So
okay, we got a couple. For your question, Pam, I see in the comments. So this is a hard copy book. It is not available in a digital format. We will be using sketches from it for different challenges, and you might see some of them on the blog for different reasons, but the entirety of the book is actually hard copy. And it retails for $26 at the site right now, kiwilane.com/shop. Okay, Stephanie, well, I'm going to let you take it over from here.
Sounds great. Hi, everyone. I am glad to see that several of you have joined, and I will try to keep an eye and refresh the comments frequently in case people have questions as we go. So my goal tonight is to put this whole layout together, kind of start to finish, other than, you know, I may add a few accents, some journaling or something later. We'll definitely get back to you guys with a final picture, probably tomorrow. But just wanted to, you know, kind of do this. So we're going to do this Halloween sketch down here, but I already have ideas to switch up a couple things, and I definitely am going to need some opinions. So I hope some of you are really excited to help me out here. So my daughter picked my background sheets. So my background is kind of black with gold stars. I have some pumpkin carving pictures that I'm not sure we're going to use. As you can tell, my 8-year-old had a giant pumpkin that was like almost bigger than she was this year, so that was kind of fun. We have photos of our carved pumpkins. I have our yard decorations. We had some inflatables up. And then my husband had a little bonfire to pass out candy. And then that was kind of our final effect. We also had a little floodlight on the garage and we moved our pumpkins over here. So as people walked up for trick or treat as it was getting dark, that's kind of what they saw, which we were pretty proud of our little display. We got a lot of compliments. We have a couple neighbors that really go all out. So Johnny, do I print my own pictures? Yes, I do. I use a Canon selfie. What I like about it is I do a lot of 2x3 pictures because I like to do things like this and fit more pictures on my page. So I can print 2 pictures here that I just cut apart and get some smaller photos easily that way. But I can still get, it's not quite a true 4x6, but it's pretty close to get a full picture. So some of these I printed in both formats because I kind of had enough time to think through what I wanted to scrapbook for this live, but I did not have time to really organize and plan my layout too much ahead of time. So there are a few elements I'm going to take from this sketch, but one of the things I also really wanted to throw in is this new placemat number 3. My thought, honestly, was that I would do the right-hand page like this, and I might kind of throw up this placemat on the left-hand page. Or I could do the sketch as is and just switch out the candy for something else because I don't have pictures of trick or treat. I really only have pictures of kind of our setup and our decorations. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you like the placemat or should we go with this and I throw a different kind of Halloween shape up here? Sorry if there's a little pause here. There's a big delay between Zoom and Facebook. So just waiting till I can see a couple more comments. I don't know anything about the HP Sprocket printer. If somebody has that, they're welcome to comment. I bought the Canon selfie because the girl I scrapbook with also has it and I liked hers. So I had my husband buy me one for Christmas last year. Sharon thinks I should go with the placemat. I'm kind of thinking that's the way I was leaning, and I'm just thinking instead of some of these accents, I might put some kind of, I could still use where this candy is and put something Halloween-y up here. I also, you can put it straight on the page, but I feel like I kind of like it maybe even at a little bit of an angle, because then I'll have another decoration down here. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the pictures. I mean, the other fun thing about these is, you can flip flop them, you can flip them over. There's all sorts of fun things you can do. So I think they're fun. I've only used my placemats a couple times so far, but I have a crop actually coming up long weekend next week, and I'm super excited about it. All right, so it's looking like everybody wants to see the placemat. So we're gonna go with the placemat over there. In the sketch, they use Aspen 2s and 3s to get this edge here and this edge here. I don't know if I'm gonna use the same one. I was actually thinking about pulling in a little Spook Alley because it's, Halloween and they just have a little bit more shape to it. So my thought was to do something maybe perhaps to get the curve with the, it's not quite a chevron, but almost that zigzaggy kind of going with that border. Or I could even do it kind of the other way around. I think I like that better on top. Or do I like that one? So this is 2A, or this is 2B. I think I kind of like the 2A, and the reason is because I don't have to think about the placement a lot. I can just kind of fit this where that is and then add a few inches up here. So I think we're going to go with that. So again, this is ways I like to switch up a sketch because I like to make it my own, and I like to make it fit the theme that I'm working on. So we're just going to design that way, and we'll have, you know, that paper will probably come up in here somewhere. So now the question is, what do I want to put behind it? I have this that's kind of fun. I thought that might actually be kind of a next fun paper because it would give me some of that shape. And I have 2 of those, so I can put some on beneath the placemat too, because really you'll only be seeing that edge. So while it's a busy pattern, you know, I think a lot of it's going to end up being covered up, and I was just planning on using a solid black for my photo mats just because there'll be a lot going on. And then the other thing we're going to need here is a pop of color for that second border underneath. So I'm also curious what you guys think. My daughter thinks that I should use this little stripe, have a little bit of that going on. And while I like it, it's really busy, although the inking will help give that edge a little bit. And again, only, you know, probably that much of it's going to show. The other option I was thinking about was this. Oh, where'd it go? Sorry, my papers are up here. This little argyle down here. Or we could even throw in the back of this sheet as a little pop of green. Love the stripe, Sharon. I do like a good stripe, I'll be honest. I know Susan is into her polka dots, and I really like my stripes and my chevrons. They're kind of a go-to pattern for me. So let's pull in the stripe because we do have the purple in the words here. I don't know how well you guys can see that pattern. There's not really much green, but the green is actually the back of the sheet. So it does kind of coordinate, and the stripe will pull a little of the green too, but we may just save, you know, the little bit we cut off the bottom to do some of the embellishments. Like in our sketch, maybe that'll be like a jack-o'-lantern hat or the background for the face or something. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't always lay out my entire layout with photos and embellishments and stuff first. The way I like to do my process is if I have large background shapes, borders, things like that, I like to cut those first so that I can have that all laid out really visually on my page before I start figuring out where to put all the small stuff. So I know that's a little bit different than how some people do theirs, but I think that's the fun thing of all these craft-ins too, and having a bunch of creative partners is that you get a little preview into everyone else's process. So what I'm going to do is just cut this border, and I'm just going to slide it up, as you can see, a little bit, because I'm going to have that zigzag down here, and that, you know, that doesn't start till here. So I want to have a little extra paper so I have some room to play with, but I don't want to waste paper because, you know, I have way too much paper anyway, so it probably wouldn't matter, but I try to be a little frugal with my expensive scrapbook paper that has no lead in it. So we'll just swap my pencil here. So we're just going to cut this guy out. And again, the cuts don't have to be exact because we're going to ink it later. One thing I will talk about, I've seen a couple people ask lately about what people do with ink, if they use vintage photo for everything, if they color coordinate for their layouts. One thing that I do with my inks is I have other colors, but there are 3 that I mainly use. I use brown, gray, and blue. So my brown is the vintage photo. My gray that I like is a dark gray. It's this hickory smoke, and that's what I'm going to use on this layout because it's all black based instead of brown based. And then I also really like to use the one, I believe it's called Faded Jeans. It's kind of a denim blue. So those are kind of my main 3 colors that I use on almost every layout, unless I'm trying to do something super unique. So if that goes there, and we pull this, I might actually wait to cut this one just because, again, I don't want to waste paper. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it as close as I can to the bottom of this design without going over this little wasted area, which actually on this particular paper, I believe has a colored stripe on the back. So you can always use that as a strip across your pattern if you want, or across a page too, or cut it in half and use it for a couple cards for just a little extra accent. But if I cut this down here, I can slide this paper around and then kind of decide where I want to trim the top after I figure out which pictures I'm going to use where. See, I already screwed up that cut, but again, it's okay because we're going to ink it. So Amy uses a lot of gray ink too. I do like my gray. I mean, I'm just not a huge brown person, although the vintage photo, to be honest, really does look good on most everything. So I can totally see why people don't mess with what's not broken and just go with it. But I'm a lot more into the grays and blues for just my personal taste and style. So oops, I cut that. Oh well, I may still save that little chevron and use it for a card. It'll be all good. That was like the most awkward cutting I feel like I've done in a very long time. So we'll place this. I figure I'll kind of place it here, and we'll definitely make sure we have a little bit probably of black at the top, but this way we can kind of, you know, once we place everything, we can decide where it makes sense to cut this border up here. And that way I still have a good chunk of usable paper here to use that green from the back side. So then on this page over here, I'm going to cut the same, use the same paper. I'm just tracing it as close to a corner as I can. So again, I'm not being wasteful because, you know, we people with way too much paper still don't like to waste any paper. So we're going to cut that extra off. We've got that green to use later if we want. got one more little side to trim off yet here. So I lost the comments again. Bear with me. I just want to make sure nobody had questions, suggestions. I don't want to be missing anything important. So again, I think I'm gonna probably hold that a little askew. I'm thinking I kind of like that way. So I can put my border away, or at least out of the way, because I'm done with those. So then the couple of things I pulled out for Halloween shapes, I pulled out the a la carte harvest, which was a new, I believe, in our August fall release. I pulled out the a la carte cauldron because I thought with the fire pit and my daughter was a witch and stuff that, you know, that might be kind of a fun one to put somewhere. I pulled out the Tiny Seasons, which was another new fall release product. Again, I was just thinking, I think there's a teeny pumpkin in here. Yeah. So I thought if we had that big pumpkin and the jack-o'-lantern out of Haunted and this little tiny pumpkin, you know, those could make like a cute little trio. I know that's hard to see on that paper. I may just slide it down here a little more so you guys can see it better. But I thought that could make like a cute little cluster. And then, and I meant do that instead of the dual pumpkins. And I could put the witch's hat on here, like they had in the picture. I mean, the other thing I could do is I could put the pumpkins over here on this page, and I could do like a little haunted house over here because I'm showing the decorations at my house, or, you know, with a little cauldron in front of it, or I don't know, lots and lots of options. So I kind of think I want to decide honestly where I'm going to put which pictures first, because I feel like that's probably going to dictate where I want to place what. And this is a little bit new for me, scrapping with my pictures. For so many years, I kind of made layouts, and then I've gone in later and try to find the right pictures for them. And instead I have this whole pile of layouts that I have made that don't have pictures yet. And it's actually a lot more work than I thought it would be to finish them. So I'm kind of going back to trying to have the pictures ready when I do my layout. So this page over here suggested, you know, 2 4x5s and a 4x5 there. And the placemat has suggestions of a large photo at the bottom and a couple smaller squares at the top. That doesn't mean that's what you have to do. The one with the 3 photos and the house, I really want this big one to kind of be, I think, my main photo is kind of what I was thinking. So if I did something like this and had my photo here, I could either stick with the night pictures and put our pumpkin pictures. This actually gets cut in half. It's two slightly smaller than 2x3s together. So I could put one here and one here. Or I could do 2 larger pictures that I cut down a little bit of the same view in the daytime. You know, this area is right here on this one, and this area is right here. Or I also printed those in a smaller version that we could do like that or like that. I don't know. What do you think looks better? Would you keep all the dark pictures with the night sky over here and put the light ones on the other page? Or would you do like the yard over here? And then over on this placemat, we could have, you know, the different pictures of the pumpkins, what they look like at the day and night. Or do we switch and do day pictures together and night pictures together? This is part of what I like about crops, and I like it about the craft-ins too, is that you can actually see, you know, get people's opinions. bear with my arms in the screen here. I am watching for comments. Gail says put the pumpkins together. I was kind of leaning that way too, just because they both have a lot of this light background. So I think getting some dark on both sides might be kind of nice. So I'm thinking we go with that. I just don't know if I want the little pictures here or the big pictures. If I do the big, I'm obviously going to cut off like my trash cans because that's ugly. We could do even like a 4x4 there. Although that one almost has to be bigger. But you could do that. You could do a 4x4 of that. Oh, not that. 4x4 of that. And then put this bigger one down here with some of this going on. I don't know about you guys. I kind of like the bigger pictures because then we'll have a mix. There'll be a couple small ones here and a big one here and a couple big ones and a half picture over here. Yeah, that's a really good point, Gail. And I was kind of thinking about that too, that the layout would be out of balance if it was all light and dark, unless I decided to switch my backgrounds accordingly too. And I've already cut pieces out and that's not something I normally do. So I appreciate a few of you have kind of weighed in on the house versus the pumpkin. So I think we're all on the same page. I think that's awesome. So we're going to go with that. I might even mix it this way so the dark is on the outside and the lighter pictures are on the inside, because I can cut off like my boring driveway and then I have room for my embellishments down here is kind of what I'm thinking. So yay, exciting. So my process, I'm sorry if it's a little all over the place, but everybody has their own process, right? So I think I am going to add this witch's hat in here though, because my daughter was a witch. You can see her costume and her little red hat. She actually, funny story, she had a matching hat that matched her cape and those stars glow in the dark. But this was Sunday on Halloween day when we have trick or treat in our town. And they had a trunk or treat at their school on Friday night that was outdoors, and she left her hat on the playground. So we were like an hour before trick or treat and realized that we didn't have her hat. So I happened to have this old red witch's hat in a tote with Halloween decorations and stuff. Nikki, my process is like yours. Awesome. I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels like a complete scatterbrain sometimes. There is a method to my madness, I promise. So, and then I'm thinking the dark pictures, because this background is so light, I'm thinking on the darker pictures, I won't do a photo mat, but on these lighter pictures, I'm probably going to put just a little solid black behind it just to make it pop. So that's what we're going to have going on. So instead of this, I'm almost kind of doing, I guess, like that with a photo layout, or like that. I don't know. Really, I just used the placemat for the shape and the idea of having 3 photos. But then I'm also kind of stealing from this layout, having some embellishments. Or maybe because the embellishments are down here, maybe I move them up here, even though, I don't know, pumpkins sit on the ground. That's what I'm struggling with. Not that it has to match, but I do kind of like the idea of having something on the bottom or on the top. Or we go light, dark, and we throw this stuff up here. I think the first thing I'm going to do, because I basically want to use this whole photo and this whole photo, I don't want to cut any of the inflatables off. I'm going to go ahead and cut this down because these pumpkins are already in this picture, so I don't need them here. And I really want to cut my trash cans out of this picture. At least mostly. So that's actually about 3 5/8, which if I do if I make this perfectly square and I do like a 4x4 mat, black mat, that'll give just a little bit of border, a little bit of pop around it. Allison, you like them on top up here? I think I'm with you there. And again, if I look back at the sketch, that gives a similar placement because there's some down here and some up here. So even though we're switching up the orientation of the photos a little bit, kind of the main elements are similar. And again, I think that gives it some good balance. So I'm taking my trimmer and I'm just trimming off the extra white from my photo printer. And one thing I like about both this and my Caterpillar, which happens to be already packed for my crop next week, is they both have, this has a guide wire and the other one has a light, so I can kind of tell right where that cut is going to happen. So if you don't have a really precise trimmer, I highly recommend it if you're going to be trimming a lot of photos. So here is kind of what I got going on. I'm also thinking I want to trim just a little. I'm going to make that like a 5 by, I don't know, do we just leave it as a 4 by 5? I actually had a thought. I'm thinking I'm going to trim this down a lot shorter because nobody really needs to see a ton of my garage door or my driveway. So if I make this small, I can take either a bracket or like a caption or expression and make a little journaling area underneath it too, just to tell maybe a little bit more about our pumpkins and our yard decorations and that kind of stuff. Gil, your wire is off. You know what? Honestly, I think mine is a tad bit off too. Fortunately, I kind of have figured out with practice that, you know, it's just which way it is. And when I replaced the blade last time, it actually, I think, kind of fell in line, which is odd. Or maybe I just learned to shift from an angle and I don't realize I did that. I'm not really sure. So if we have those pictures and we'll add some element, we'll have these shapes up here and we'll add some kind of journaling element down here. And then over here, we have the cauldron, we have the house, or we could tuck the house in here. I kind of like it this way. Or do I just do the house? It needs something else. I have the cauldron. What else we got? We could have a little ghost coming out up here or over here. Or we could do the moon up here or even up here. I'm not really feeling the cat or the piece of candy because that doesn't really fit with any of what's on the layout. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you like just 2 elements here? I've kind of got 4 over here, but it's really 3 because this witch's hat is part of the jack-o'-lantern. Or do I add like a ghost or a moon, or we could even, I have the bat too, the a la carte. Where'd that guy go? There's also that a la carte bat. Or you could have that, you know, swimming, hanging out somewhere else. But I'm kind of liking either the bat or the ghost, maybe. I don't know. We'll get there. Bear with me a moment. My mouse isn't working. Sorry, my dog's scratching at my door. Give me a sec. I have a dog who is blind and deaf, and she really does not like to have a closed door in the house. So if you can hear her little toenails clicking on my hard floor, I apologize. But if I don't let her in, she will just scratch at the door and scratch and scratch and scratch all night because she really doesn't like to be left out. So just visually, we're going to put that black photo mat behind that one. I may not actually bother to do a mat down here just because that picture is a little bigger. I don't know, what do you think? Or does it need that matching little bit of pop so they all look dark? I know that's not the right sheet. I'm thinking I kind of almost like it without there because we're going to have some stuff going on over here too. Leave it as is. That's a good idea. And then I had this sheet that came with the kit had a bit of orange. So I was kind of thinking that I would use the orange for a couple of the pumpkins, but I guess I didn't really think through that we have 3 different pumpkins. And we might need a couple more options here. Maybe the back of this stripe is kind of a creamy color with some polka dots. So maybe I'll make that my bigger pumpkin and make this guy my jack-o'-lantern. And then this little tiny pumpkin, I might just pull a solid or textured cardstock just to make this little guy out of maybe more of an orange. Or I suppose I could make him black and I could use a white pencil or a white gel pen, you know, to make those little lines. That might work too. Anybody have an opinion on that one? I'm going to trace the harvest a la carte here, and I honestly was not planning on really using the middle parts. I really just wanted the pumpkin shape on the outside because I'm going to have 2 other pumpkins in front of it. So I don't think we need to get too carried away and precise. Sometimes I hate the way I cut, but it always looks fine after I ink, so I'm just not too worried. It's amazing what you can hide with a little bit of inking. I know there are people that don't ink, but then I suppose you'd have to like draw your design on the back of the paper, where you'd have to be really precise with your cutting or erase all your pencil marks later or something. No, I'm not loving that either, because I don't think it pops well. I could put just a little black behind it. No, we're going to switch that up. Sorry. This is the fun of creating, right? It's a little trial and error. I suppose if I use the template to trace instead of the piece of paper, that would probably work a little better. I'm drawing on my templates, which, by the way, if you don't already know this, Magic Eraser works great to just take those pencil marks off really quickly. Or if my kids accidentally grab a pen or a marker when they're using my templates. Again, Magic Eraser to the rescue, because it really bugs me to look at my templates and feel like they look dirty. So every once in a while I clean them up. I think that'll be better when it's inked. Yeah, plain orange would work. I have to dig behind me for a while. I'm afraid I don't have the right orange. I have like corals and I have really like bright Home Depot orange or like rusty orange. And this is such a more like faded, distressed orange. I'm thinking, oh, let me look at that. Here's what I got. That one's too yellowy. That one's not terrible. Actually, this yellowy one really isn't too bad. Orange is hard to match, Gail. I mean, that one's way too bright. That's neon. Yeah, who would have thunk that orange would be the difficult color? I think I'm actually going to use the solid orange for the jack-o'-lantern. That way, I think the face will, when I put the face on it, it will get emphasized a little bit better. What I haven't decided is if I want to like just draw the face on with black marker, or if I want to use like this green with the little polka dots to cut out the face, because that could be fun. And I have a bunch of scraps of that from cutting these big pieces. And again, I just do a rough cut around the outside of the shape. And then I do the fine cutting when I don't have so much background around the edges, because I find that helps. So we've almost got the outside of the jack-o'-lantern done. And I wish I was one of those people that was really good with a detail pen, because I think that would be really fun on these pumpkins and stems and stuff. It's one of the things I want to learn and just haven't really had time to play with. So there's that one. I'm thinking I'm just going to take this pumpkin and cut this little one out of it. Let's see what happens with that. See if we like that. If not, I haven't wasted too much paper. There, I have my little pumpkin cluster. I think that'll be kind of cute. Once I ink the edges, that'll pop just a little bit more too. Green with polka dots for the third pumpkin. I didn't think about that one as an option. I think I'm going to use the green for the jack-o'-lantern face. And if I really want to conserve paper, I can take these little triangle cuts that I have from the other page. Make my eyes and my nose out of there, because I'm sure we all needed new and more ways to conserve paper, since we all probably have a huge hoard of it, right? And then I'm just gonna do the mouth. Out of this little edge. Honestly, you could totally just take a black Sharpie or some black ink too and fill that in. But how do you buy the sketchbook, Leah? It is in the Kiwi Lane shop. It just came out last week. It is Ideabook number 4. It is in the Ideabook physical book category. I did go somewhere last week and have mine spiral bound because I like to be able to fold it over like this. So it does not come that way. It comes as a book with a hard binding, but I always spiral bind mine because I just feel like they're more useful, and it costs like $5 to have it done. Any office supply store, Office Depot, Office Depot, Staples, FedEx, Kinko's, those kind of places, I'll do it. I had it done at a FedEx office store that happens to be like 5 minutes from where I work. So I just ran one day over lunch and dropped it off and ran the next day to pick it up. But Kiwi Lane may post the link for you while we're live if someone happens to be on watching. If not, I will post the link in the comments after we wrap up here to where the sketchbook is. And I believe the cost was $26. And then if you're a Kiwi Club member, you get an extra 10% off. I think it was $23.40. If I'm doing that math right in my head. So I happen to have it early because as creative partners, we got to order things a week or so early so that we would have them to be doing craft-ins as soon as you guys are able to order some of this stuff. But it did come out for everyone else last week, so you should be able to see it on the site. Gail, you laugh at yourself as you cut tiny shapes out of paper scraps. Yeah, I'm with you. I have a workbox behind me, which is like the old version of the dream box that I know Amy has shown in some of her videos previously. And it is like full, it is half paper. And I have paper that doesn't fit into it. Like the last thing I possibly need is more paper. But sometimes it's just hard to not buy paper. And I know some people use tweezers and things to get these little pieces inked. I just end up with ink all over my fingers because that's how I roll. I don't want to have to find a pair of tweezers. I know I have a pair in here somewhere, but again, as I said at the beginning, I am partially packed already for a weekend retreat that I'm going to next week. So I have some of my stuff packed up already and some of my stuff not packed up, and it's just not quite as organized in here as it normally is. And I like to be organized, but since COVID, I've had a really hard time with that because my craft room is now also my home office, which I'm finally back in the office just a day or two a week, but I still work majority from home and I don't really have a good space to work from. So my craft space is my workspace and my workspace is my craft space. Corin, this is a new Kiwi Lane product. It's Ideabook number 4. It is 180 sketches. So the sketches specifically have Kiwi Lane templates in them, and each sketch will tell you what the templates are if you want to have the exact same shapes, but you wouldn't even have to have a ton of Kiwi Lane templates to use it because it would be so easy to just switch things up with dies you have, or if you have a Cricut or Silhouette, like you can use different shapes. If you have fancy cutters or even fancy scissors, you can make different shapes. Although I'll be honest, I really love my Kiwi borders. But you know, as you're building your collection, you don't have to have everything. Or if you only have a couple of borders, you can use the ones you have. You don't have to use the exact ones that are on the sheet. So I think that's a really nice thing about Kiwi Lane is that they play nice with everybody else, where some of the other companies out there their things work specifically with their things. I want to grab my little X sticker maker. Where do I have that? I knew there was something I wouldn't have out. I do not know where I put that. Since I can't find my little 1-inch one, I'm going to use my big one. I could use wet glue, but I don't know, wet glue and I don't get along very well. I much prefer to make it into the sticker, but they're such small pieces. It's not going to work super good with a tape runner. Then I just use my little weeding tool to kind of poke it down in there and suck it through. So to put the face on the jack-o'-lantern, I'm going to pull the template back out, and I like to just place it on top to make sure I get the right pieces in the right place. It doesn't have to be exact, but I just kind of use that as my framework for where to put stuff so I don't end up with mixing up the little nose with one of the bigger eyes and having the eyes be different size, or, you know, as you can see, it's not exact. There's orange showing over there, but not over there, that kind of thing. But it at least gets us pretty close. For some reason, I can't peel this apart. There we go. So there's my little jack-o'-lantern face. It's kind of cute, right? So there's our little pumpkin cluster. I'm actually gonna, I think, put this little one inside this bigger one a little bit, because otherwise I'm afraid it kind of blends with that paper. Or we could kind of put it up here. Pop it out a little maybe to get a little shadow. Maybe something like that. Yep. I ended up turning my background sheet, which was not what I was trying to do. Oh, I was talking about putting this witch's hat on here too. But honestly, I'm afraid, well, I could do that in the green too. Let's cut it out and see what it looks like. I've got plenty of scraps of green here. This isn't quite the right. I'm going to end up cutting this in a weird spot. Oh, wrong pencil. That's the one that didn't have lead. One would think that I put it out of the way for a reason, and then yet I still grab it. Purple hat. That is not a bad idea. There's just, you know, there's tiny pops of purple in some of these patterns, but there's not an actual purple paper. So to dig for purple, something with a slight pattern, not that I couldn't grab a solid, but I don't know why, but since I've kind of gotten on the Kiwi Lane method, I don't do a lot of just plain solids except for photo mats and sometimes a background sheet if I'm trying to stretch out a kit, or if I have like an Echo Park kit where there's not two sheets that are the same. To have identical background sheets, then I will do just a solid cardstock, or I actually like textured cardstock as background sheets and mats. So I'm just realizing this moved a little and I'm not centered anymore. Give me just a second here. I must have bumped my phone setup. That's a little too much. Ooh, it just dropped down on me. Let's try that. Well, I'll just slide it all this way a little because I can't figure that out. So I just want you to be able to see this whole part of this page. So I think we're done with these little pumpkins now. So I'm just gonna kind of put that stuff away over here. It may not be super organized, but I find once I finish with something, if I get it out of my way, it sometimes helps a little bit. And I'm done with the witch's hat. So I do have my haunted house over here, and I am gonna want to pull in the stripe paper somewhere over here. I'm almost wondering, could the stripe paper make like a fun little photo mat for this guy? Is that too much if we just see a little bit of it around the edge just to pull that stripe through both places? Because again, I'm just kind of trying to balance the page, and I really like that little pop over here, but I think it needs to be over here somewhere. And I don't think I can use stripe as a journaling template because, I mean, that's just way too busy. Where would you possibly write that you would be able to read it? And it wouldn't be way too much, right? Make a hat band. That's not a bad idea. That would be really small though. Because I mean, you could do a stripe that way. You could put like a purple stripe. Or you could, you know, cut just a little piece of that somewhere along the way. I'm actually kind of liking the purple stripe now that Joni recommended that purple hat. So let's do that. I'm just going to make a little mark where the hat is. We're just going to cut the purple out. Use the stripe as background mat to journaling. That's also an option. So if we have that little hat stripe like that, I think that'd be cute. It does break up that hat just a little bit, doesn't it? So unfortunately, I'm wasting a lot of sticker here, but I want to get that lined up there. Give me just a All right, sorry about that. I had to mute for one of my kids for just a second. Lots going on. Deer hunter's widow this weekend. My husband is up north. It's hunting season here in Minnesota. So set of stripes at bottom of photo as top of journal bracket. I'm not sure I understand what that means. So you mean like you put a little stripe under it and then put a bracket underneath, or you make this the bracket and then put like a solid color inside? Wow, sorry if you guys saw that flashlight. Like I had a little power blink in my house here. So yeah, so I think I'm going to do this just a solid black here for this house because it's on top. It'll be mostly on top of this light one. And then we can take a color. We can either take, the green or a stripe and do the windows and doors with that, or we can use like a white gel pen and make white accents, or you could even use like a gold glitter or something, could be kind of fun. I don't know. We'll figure that out. We got a little time. I do not like the way that corner cut. That's much better. I have tabs of paper hanging off my roof. Unless it's winter and it's snow and it's icicles, which I actually did take this haunted house last year. I wish I had it handy to show you guys, but I made it into a gingerbread house. So I just cut out of like a brown or craft paper. And then I had used like red or green for the windows and doors. And then I used red, green, and white gemstones and made little borders across all the roof lines. So it ended up being pretty cute. And now that we have the new gingerbread house template, I think I'll take the gingerbread person from the new things and make a little guy to go with this gingerbread. Now that we need a gingerbread house, we don't need to use the haunted house, but since I already have that embellishment made and I haven't used it on a page yet, like having a little gingerbread guy or girl next to it would be kind of cute. So there's my haunted house. I'm just putting the house on top of the black paper to remind me that I need to do something for these windows yet. The cauldron, ideally, I would probably make that black, but since we've already used black for the house, I'm thinking we'll make it out of the same little orange guy. Small pumpkin out of stripes, the little one's getting lost. I haven't ruled that out yet, or my other thought was I could put it on black and cut just a small black border and pop that out. But the stripes is a good idea. Maybe that pumpkin is tiny. We could cut it out of something else too and see if we like it better. That's the other fun thing about playing to create is if something doesn't work, it's super easy to switch it up and you haven't like ruined your whole layout. So you've already seen me scrap a couple of that just didn't turn out quite the way I had planned. So sometimes when I have a straight edge on a template, I just use the straight edge of the paper. So that's one line that I don't have to cut and don't have to worry about whether it's straight. Where did I get the little haunted house? It's part of, oh, I just realized I have this guy upside down and it should have gone that way. I guess I can put it that way too. I mean, that's the fun thing with black, right? I can flip it either way. This is part of the haunted set. This set came out last fall. It was like August or November last year. So this is Haunted 6. The haunted set had these guys on it. So both the jack-o'-lantern on the top of this page, the witch's hat, and the haunted house all came out of that haunted accessory set. I want to say that's like a $14 or $15 set on the site, but it's definitely still available. It hasn't retired, so you guys can get a hold of that. I'm not loving the cauldron out of this, guys. Green. Would you do it in green? I don't think I have a, do I have a piece of, well, I'll have a piece of green that's big enough once I cut the top off of this. So I think that's the next thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna place this stuff and see where I wanna cut this and how much I can cut off the top. So I have this border, then I'm putting this border on top of it. And then I have my haunted house, which I can throw anywhere in here. I have these pictures of my house. And these pictures of my house. So I really want to slide this up here. I'm thinking I want to go about there. If we need to shift it around later, we can. Trying to pick up this piece of black off of here and it's not working well. There we go. So there's kind of what we got with a little bit of the black showing on the bottom and the top still, the black star paper. And then we'll have a haunted house. We'll have my house decorations. We'll have our driveway scene. We'll have this going on here. And then on this page, we've got our pumpkins. So since I have enough of the green, I have that set, but mine looks smaller. Maybe just the angle of the camera, I don't know. I mean, this is a 12 by 12 page, so it takes up, you know, maybe a third of the page is probably about 4 inches. Sorry for the interruptions, guys. I got dogs coming in to like walk around and lick my feet, and I have kids coming in because their dad isn't home and I don't know they want something. I'm sure it has to do with screen time. All right. Yeah, I think the green will pop a little bit better. Maybe we even put this down here. I don't know. Maybe we just end up with the haunted house over here. What do you guys think? Thinking if I take this for the door, that'd kind of look like a doorknob, and that'd be kind of cute. I can try to make all my windows out of just the orange. Again, conserving that paper, even though I don't really need to do that. Question is, do I make that orange or do I make that like a little black pop window? That might be kind of fun to go with the door. We can always make one out of solid orange too and see what we think. I'm gonna make one that's just orange too. And we'll see which one we like better. I feel weird sitting here quietly while you all just watch me cut pieces out. Ideally, I would probably have some of these pre-cut, but I think it's a little more fun to go through it together too, because especially for those of you that are a little newer to some of this, I think it's really fun to just see how different people do their process as you're finding what works for you. And even if you're not new to it, sometimes you learn some really good tips and think just decide that what somebody else does really makes a lot of sense. So hopefully I've said something here tonight that triggered one of those light bulb moments for somebody else. And if not, at least we have a fun layout to work on together, right? Scrapping with me, Kathy, that's great. I love your layouts, so I can't wait to see what you came up with. So that's the door, those are the windows, that's a window. So do we like the little eye window up here? Because that'd be like a creepy haunted house kind of thing. Or do we like the plain orange circle? What do you guys think? Some days I'm really decisive with what I like, and some days I'm just not. And I think today's one of the latter. I think I need to re-ink my ink pad soon. Ruby likes the eye look. Kind of has an eerie haunted house like Cyclops thing going maybe. Couple votes for the eye, so we'll go with the eye. All right. So again, not that it matters, not that I have to be exact, but I do kind of like to just lay that over top and use it as a guide when I cut out the shapes. Sometimes I trace the shapes onto and either fill them in, or I've even taken like an ink pad and run it over there. But if you do that, sometimes you have to tape around the edges of something so you don't accidentally get ink where you didn't want it. You're working while you watch, Gail, with a 3-year-old. That's awesome. Well, I don't know. Kids like watching YouTube videos of other people doing things all the time. My kids love to watch people play games on YouTube. Personally, I don't understand how that's interesting because I'd rather play a game myself than watch someone play a game. But that younger generation, I just don't know. My kids are 8 and 10, so you know, they're old enough to be a little independent, but young enough that they still need a lot from mom. So I'm just inking the edge of this to hide any pencil marks that might have come through, which are mostly on the back since I accidentally traced it upside down. So Not much to worry about there. Sweetheart, they can see your fingers. My daughter is very interested and she's in here looking at our pictures right now, my 8-year-old. So she likes to hang with mom. She likes to craft with mom too. Never inked my witch's hat either. So we'll go ahead and get that one done. Thank you. She says it looks really nice. I am going to take that suggestion and see what it looks like if I use the stripe for this little tiny pumpkin, because I agree it's getting lost and I'm not loving it. So we're just going to trace it out of the stripe. I accidentally turned that a little, but we'll just make it pretty. I do want to see what that looks like and see if we like that a little better. Oh, I guess it helps if I actually keep the paper to cut it out. There we go. That's where my paper went. I almost started cutting the template. That would have been bad. I would have had to order another set. So is that better? I think it is. I think you guys were right having something dark there. I didn't want to do green since we already used green for the hat and the jack-o'-lantern face, but it needed something dark. I still will probably put, you know, something on it to pop it out a little bit, but I might just draw a couple of seams on the bigger pumpkin in the back with like a black marker later. Could take this and put it like down here too if I wanted to. Have the cauldron and the pumpkin. What do you guys think of that? I love you too, sweetheart. Yes, on the stripes. Love the house. You guys are awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my start to finish layout. I'm going to do something else over here. I feel like I might mat this with a little bit of stripe too, or either that or I'll mat it in black. And then we're going to do some kind of, I'll show you guys this and see what you guys think. I was thinking I'd either take one of these bigger brackets and put it underneath. It's not super easy to see on the light paper. If I put a bracket underneath like that or like that for some journaling. Or the other thing I really, really love to use is the expressions and captions. Normally, like, that's one of my favorite shapes. But for Halloween, because of the angles in this, I'm thinking I kind of like that guy. So we could do something like that and have it be underneath, you know, kind of a shape like that even. Or I could put that block next to my cauldron with or without the pumpkin. It might even be fun to do a black journaling piece here and use like a white gel pen. I don't know. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer tonight because I also have young kids who have school tomorrow and we've got to start bedtime pretty soon. So I'm kind of thinking I'm going to let you guys go, wrap this up, probably finish these last couple of accents. But I'd love to see what you guys think about this expressions for or using like the brackets 4T under the picture. You know, which one do you guys like? Do you like the bracket under the picture, or do you like this expression kind of in a cluster here? And we could kind of angle this pumpkin picture with maybe a little black frame. So curious what you guys think. I will probably put the finishing touches on this either late tonight or tomorrow morning. And I will post the final layout in the comments, as well as sending it to Kiwi Lane should they decide they want to put this one on the blog as well. Love your feedback. Thank you guys very much for joining me tonight. And if you were creating with me, I would also really like to see what you guys created. And thank you, Gail. I'm liking the striped pumpkin too. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight. It's been an hour and a half, so I'm going to let you guys go. Ruby, Natalie, you guys like the expression, so I think we're going to go with that. I just need to decide if I want to pull in like a solid orange and write on there, you know, in black or purple, or if I want to do it in black and use like a white gel pen or a chalk marker. So we'll get that figured out. We'll get it on there, and you guys have seen most of it and played along with me, and I will post the final layout tomorrow. You're welcome. Thank you guys for joining me. I really, really appreciate you hanging out with me, and I appreciate your opinions. I think we've come up with something really fun, and it's going to look super cute when I get it all tacked down together. We'll see you guys later. Thanks. Good night.